Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. If you guys could subscribe, that'd be great. Appreciate you stopping by as the KD watch continues. It is almost a week. Are we almost at a week here officially of like them getting into trade discussions? I don't know what the official watch date is because, you know, the Heat, we're on the list. We're on the list. I don't know what officially is like the day we decide that like Durant watch officially begins. I'm actually curious because I'm supposed to do a show on the 25th from the arena for 560 WQN, which you guys could, by the way, watch every single weekday, 10 to 2 p.m. Me and my guy Leroy Horde. We got into a lot of Durant stuff today. But today's fascinating blend of where we're at with it, because I don't want to harp on anything that isn't new, because I think I don't think much has changed in the way of like what I think is going to get this done. And I still come back to the fact of I think that if the Heat offer Kel'el Ware, I think that they get Kevin Durant. I don't know how keen they are on dealing Kel'el Ware, ergo why there is not a Durant trade right now. But the interesting thing that came out today from Shams Charania, that is an update, is Kevin Durant seemingly, or Rich Kleiman seemingly leaking to Shams Charania that he has no interest in going to the Minnesota Timberwolves. We got his list this past week, where it was, of course, the Miami Heat, the Spurs, the Rockets. It has felt very much like the Suns, if they had their way, they would like to deal with the Rockets because of the draft capital. If they couldn't, they'd like the war chest of some of the young stuff the Spurs have. The Spurs don't seem that interested in Kevin Durant, or not with the stuff that they're offering. And then the final place is Miami, which in ways can feel a little bit like the Miami Heat. People are the Miami Heat the favorite. I don't really know. It's kind of why I'm not gonna lie. Like, I want Kevin Durant on the Miami Heat, but I'm not at Damian Lillard level where like I am dying with every tweet, because like I guess I'm beaten down a little bit. Like my full expectation is the Heat don't get Kevin Durant, which I feel bad about, because like I left the Dirty Boxing gig this week, and as I'm leaving, like a bunch of people are coming up. Hey, dude, Tobes Durant, we get Durant, and I'm like, I don't know. What I would say is nothing that has happened so far seems like bad news for the Miami Heat, but it also does feel a little bit like there is some posturing going on here, which is a negotiation, because I think the Heat are trying to get, obviously, Durant for the best deal. But to me, their secret chip here that would get it done, and I think would probably get it done with giving up the least amount of capital, because he's the most interesting player that could legitimately help the Suns now, is Ware. And I just keep coming back to where, we talked about this, we were talking about this trade 3 weeks ago, about how like I think it's going to come down to, and it feels like it's playing out like that, because the Spurs don't want to give up their best young guys. It seems like Jalen Green is the best guy. This is all reports. I'm just going by what's out there. You guys see the same stuff, that Jalen Green is the biggest thing, but they may, if they end up with him, flip him for somebody else. And what was interesting about the Timberwolves is, I guess, Windhorst comes out today and he's like, well, they haven't gotten any offers from the three teams on on Durant's list that have really enticed them to do it. They haven't put a move, or they haven't put an offer there that's really moved them. So they aren't necessarily beholden to his list, which they're not. And so I think that it's one of those things where this Minnesota deal was, they were trying to be aggressive, the Timberwolves, because I think they're trying to do right by Anthony Edwards, and he doesn't want to go there. I mean, it was funny today, Drew Starr, shout out, who is he's in his absolute apex right now as top Heat gatherer of all things rumors. So if you guys don't, but I imagine you do, at Drew_star. He will literally keep you updated on every podcast blur, whatever. The dude is like LeBron in Game 6, 2012 Eastern Conference Finals when it comes to trade rumor time. Just a true artist, Drew Star. I feel like a lot of these Johnny-come-latelys are trying. This guy was doing it back before there was any glitz and glamour in the game. In fact, I don't even think he has a blue check mark. I think he just does this for love of the game, which is where you could tell that where the true artists are. So shout out to Drew Star. But he was digging up some old Durant tweets, really just basically all complaining about how cold it is in Minnesota. And here's the thing with the old guys. They don't like the cold. And I don't think Kevin Durant has any interest in going to a place that's freezing his ass off half the year, especially if it's not like a glamour city like New York. But the other interesting thing, and this is one to just kind of put in the back of your head, even if Durant doesn't end up with the Heat, it's kind of that first little kernel. Anthony Edwards. People don't like to go to Minnesota, dude. Just since the beginning of time, people have not liked going to Minnesota. So just keep a mind on it that we're sitting in a spot where, you know what? The cold, people not too fond of it, Ant-Man. So if his idol doesn't want to go there, just a little. Now, what I do think is interesting, though, is Kevin Durant is seemingly doing the Jimmy Butler, making a stink, but a cordial stink, hoping that it's, he's given some respect, which I really thought that the Suns on some level would. I can't imagine the Suns would sit here thinking, man, we really tried to, go behind this guy's back and deal him last year to Golden State, and that really flew in the face. And then all of a sudden, everybody was in on Kevin Durant trades. That's the one thing that I found a little bit odd, right? Everybody is all out here being like, we were aggressive. When, the whole thing that got out was that he didn't want to go back to Golden State, and then the Heat were kind of in this spot where maybe, but now it's like, oh, yeah, Minnesota was aggressive too. Okay, dude. Well, if you say so. There was some other stuff today. Mark Spears went on NBA Today and was talking about, the Knicks apparently, were one of the teams that he was interested in going to, but they didn't really show any desire to go get him, so they're off the list. So I don't know, man. Look, I think the Suns are going to get to a point where they realize they're not going to get a haul. I can't imagine the Desmond Bane trade is a good thing, because even with the age discrepancy, one is a legend, one's never been an all-star. You have a wackadoo owner. I could see that being problematic, even though it shouldn't be. But I also think that the Heat got to come to grips with, hey, I don't think you're going to get Kevin Durant for nothing. There's going to be a little bit of if the Heat had their way, it would be, Wiggins, who reportedly today, I think it was Mike Scotto. I think he said that they were doing research on Andrew Wiggins. I think it would be, I think honestly, ideally, if they had their ideal idea, it would be Rozier, Duncan, 20, and Jovic. Or ideally, it would be Duncan, Terry, Jaquez, and 20th pick, and that would be the deal. I'm trying to be real about it, because I think that's a poo-poo platter of stuff. Even as much as I love Duncan, Jaime's value has never been lower. Terry's value is negative. Duncan is on an expiring deal who can help the cap, but has been dealing with back issues the last couple of years. And, 20 is a good pick, but it's not the greatest thing in the world. I think if there was the least amount of pain that they wanted to deal with, it would be 20, Jovic, and those pieces. If you had to crank it up a little bit, it would be 20, Jovic, Wiggins, and and maybe Hawkes in there too. And then, like, if you're really talking about it, okay, if it's only one of the young guys, throw in another first-round pick in 2030, let's say, and that's like the real creme de la creme. They're betting against the Heat pick that they can do some business with. They could either flip it for another asset. You know, look, those Heat picks have traveled for a long time, either the Goron picks or the Jimmy picks. They can linger in the air a while. To me, though, I think if it's, you know, Ware, Duncan, and, you know, I don't know what the other salary piece would be. Let's say it's Terry. I just can't imagine anybody taking Terry Rozier on any contract. But let's just say it's Duncan for right now and Terry. And the 20th pick. I think, like, that's one where the Heat do have to wrestle with and be like, all right, this sucks. We like Kel'el Ware. I like Kel'el Ware. I bet on Kel'el Ware to win Rookie of the Year. All right. If Kel'el Ware is, and by all means, if Kel'el Ware is going to be here playing basketball, can't wait to watch his career unfold. But I also get the franchise needing a jolt. And I think for everybody who's sitting here and being like, what does it do? What's the point? You know, the Bill Simmonsons of the world who are telling things to blow it up, trade Tyler, trade Bam. I do think that, look, the Heat are going to have to come to grips at some point with what is that duo going to do for you and what can you put around them to mean something. There is going to be a come to grips moment, but I do think those guys getting added with a legend next to him, with Spo being as good as he is, and then still having some ability to maneuver around them and even maybe figuring out, hey, what are the perfect pieces, whether that be Wiggins on the floor with him if he's not in the trade, or if he is, and you were able to keep Ware or Jovic, how that all works out. But what I do know is if they come back with the same squad that they had last year, that I know you have no hope with. Like, even with a drama-free season, it needs something. Even a Andrew Wiggins who's more at peace, you eventually have to have some pivot point with this franchise. And that is when, like, if there's really no answers, then you have to start searching around and be like, all right, what do we do with Tyler? What do we do with Bam? What do we do here? But I do think those guys are good enough players to snoop around, see if you could find a true win-now guy with them in an East, and then see what the hell happens. What else can you do around them? What will they do for those guys as players as well? And so that's why I think it's a discussion you have to have. And people can sit here and be like, well, that doesn't make you champions right away. And it's like, okay, but nobody thought Jimmy Butler was going to make you a champion right away. Like, they tried to trade Goran Dragic before that season. And if it wasn't for Dallas being rat bastards, he would have been on the Dallas Mavericks and he wouldn't have been the leading scorer in the bubble season. You know, like, weird shit happens in the NBA. So, yeah, I don't want to give up Kel'el Ware. I'd love if Pat Riley can pull off getting Kevin Durant without giving up Jovic or Ware, like, all talks of him being washed are ridiculous. If he has to give up one of his young bigs, then, yeah, that's kind of the price of doing business. It is. But I think that's a gamble that is worth it for the Miami Heat from where their franchise is at, which, yeah, people can say is, I get it. You wouldn't look at them as obvious contenders. I would understand why. But you can't dismiss it. Like, it's not a dismissible move. I don't care what you say. Like, getting Kevin Durant with those two guys, it's not something you can completely dismiss and say it won't go in any positive direction whatsoever. Your nightmare scenario is just that, hey, Kel'el Ware becomes a double-double machine potential all-star. But I still think we saw with him, like, there's development that has to come there. He's only 21 years old, so. The idea, though, that Minnesota is getting there, like, he's pulling the Jimmy Butler of, like, hey, don't want to go to this place. Please send me. These are the places I'd like to ride my career out. it's not going to be in Minnesota. And one of the reasons is, hey, Minnesota probably doesn't want to give him an extension. Minnesota's already a little up against it with the dough. So, and also it's freezing. Maybe he knows, if a guy who hobnobs with Ant, like Ant doesn't want to be there long term, maybe he's aware of that. Maybe because Ant wants to be somewhere else. Where could that be? Anywho, that is where we're at today, though. The watch continues for all of Heat Nation as Kevin Durant doesn't want to go to Minnesota, but does seem open to Miami. We're on the list. But no real traction so far. Nothing new, no fodder, no news. But the Heat maybe feeling that like they're in some kind of lead race, but I think it's going to be interesting to see, do the Heat have the stones to actually pull the trigger on a move like this?